Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Charts with Dan. It was another lean and mean weekend at the box office, but we saw yet another anime film open at number one. So let's jump right into the latest box office numbers. This is for October 24th through the 26th, and the number one movie was Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze Arc. I've got a review for it right here on the channel if you didn't catch that late last week. This was a movie that was expected to compete with Regretting You and Black Phone 2 for number one, but it just kept going up over the weekend. Response from fans was very strong to the movie. It had a great cinema score number, so it seems like this was something that made the anime fans happy, that provided a little bit of an extra boost to the box office, so not much to complain about here. In second place was Regretting You, which debuted to $13.6 million, so it could not capture that same magic as It Ends With Us, but that's a hard movie to replicate. In third place is Black Phone 2, which dropped 52.8% in its second week to bring in $12.9 million. 52.8%, not bad for a horror film. Seems like a lot of people might have been in a scary movie mood leading up to Halloween. Its domestic total now is at $48.9 million. In fourth place was Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. That's a disappointing debut at $8.8 million, especially because it had some awards prestige and also because of the budget point for the movie. We'll see if it can hang around, but I have to say, my mom is the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan that you could possibly imagine, and she didn't even go out and see it this past weekend because she wasn't sure about whether she could buy Jeremy Allen White as Bruce Springsteen. The fact that you could not sell the Springsteen movie to one of the biggest Springsteen fans in the world, not a good sign for the movie overall. Also, if you'll permit me a bit of a side journey here, I went to see Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere on Thursday. I'd structured it so I could do a double feature between Springsteen and Chainsaw Man, and it proved to be just another example of why theaters are struggling and why, to some degree, it's a self-inflicted wound. I have kind of soured on the AMC that's closest to my house because the facilities are not in great shape. The projector, when I went to see One Battle After Another, the lamp was going out, so half of the screen was a bit discolored. It was something that maybe not everybody noticed, but I certainly noticed, and it was disappointing to me because I was looking forward to seeing that movie on the big screen. I still watched it because it wasn't unwatchable. Things like replacing a projector lamp, that is very much a corporate thing. It's not like every single theater can do that immediately on their own. So I went to a different theater a little bit closer to me to see Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere. And as I'm watching the movie, the trailers and everything are projecting off of the screen and onto the adjustable black mat at the top and the bottom of the screen that usually kind of goes up and down depending on what the aspect ratio of the movie is. So like a good viewer, and quite honestly, the only viewer in that theater, I went and reported it and said, hey, the trailers are projecting off the screen. I just wanted to let you know because I don't want that to happen when the movie does, and maybe somebody just forgot to adjust it from the last movie that was there. So I went back, sat through the rest of the trailers. The movie starts, and it's still projecting off the top and the bottom of the screen. So I'd say 80% of the movie was on the screen, and then 10% either side projecting on the black parts, top and bottom. So I went back out and said, hey, the movie's still projecting off the screen. And they said, oh, yeah, sorry, we can't fix it. We've got to wait for somebody else to come fix it. And so I said, okay, well, then can I get my money back? And they looked kind of surprised, and I was like, I'm not going to watch it like that. And that, to me, is just another example of what theaters have to do in order to take matters into their own hands to do better, because this is now multiple theaters across multiple chains in the same town that have had technical problems, things that need to be fixed, whether that needs to be done on a theater by theater level or whether it needs to be done on a corporate level. And I think the answer is both. This is something that theaters have to address. When we talk about the fact that nobody goes to the movies anymore, if you are a movie theater, you must do everything within your power to make sure that the people that are actually in your theater and sitting down in the seats are going to stay, and that you're presenting them a movie that is worth watching on the big screen, and that'll get them excited to come back for more. So I've said this many times here on the channel. Yes, there are a lot of external factors that are driving down moviegoing, but a big part of it still falls on the shoulders of the theaters themselves. They can't just blame everybody else. In fifth place was Tron Ares, which made $4.9 million in its third week. It dropped 55.8%. It's now at $63.3 million. It continues to be a financial disappointment. So before we go to the rest of the top 10, let's break down some of the top 5. And I mentioned Chainsaw Man, the movie, Reze Arc, another anime number 1, and one of the top opening anime films of all time at the domestic box office. These are the top 10. Of course, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle from less than 2 months ago is at number 1 with $70.6 million. Then we have Pokemon, the first movie from 1999 at $31 million. Demon Slayer Mugen Train is in third place at $21.1 million, just barely ahead of Dragon Ball Superhero at fourth place, and Pokemon the movie 2000 in fifth place. But Chainsaw Man the movie, number 6 all-time on the anime list. It comes in just ahead, and I mean just ahead, of Jujutsu Kaisen 0. They basically tied each other. Then we have The Boy and the Heron at $13 million, and 2 special Demon Slayer events leading into the next season of the show. To the Hashira Training from 2024 at $11.5 million, and to the Swordsmith Village at number 10 at $10.8 million. But when you look at this chart, the fact that the 2 Pokemon movies were numbers 1 and 2 for so many years, about 20 years, I mean, really, 8 of these top 10 have just come in the last 4 years. It really is a great example of just how much anime has exploded here in the United States as the theaters have reopened from COVID. And I think it's because a lot more people are discovering it. A lot of it is on Netflix, so it's not quite as niche. Crunchyroll is also growing in popularity. This is a really booming genre, and it'll be interesting to see what this chart looks like in just 2 or 3 more years. Black Phone 2 is also now the 6th highest grossing horror film of the year. It moves up a few spots on this list. It's about $22 million behind 28 Years Later, so we'll see if it can crack the top 5, but it's now ahead of The Monkey, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Heart, Eyes, and Him. All right, this is the rest of the top 10. At number 6 is Good Fortune, which dropped 49.6% in week 2. It brought in another $3.1 million. At number 7 is Shelby Oaks from, of course, director Chris Stuckman. It debuts at $2.3 million. That is similar to some other horror debuts or horror-adjacent debuts from Neon. It's similar to It Lives Inside and Infinity Pool. If it follows the track of those movies, it's going to end with a domestic final around $5 million. In 8th place is One Battle After Another at $2.2 million, followed by Roofman at number 9, and the re-release of Paranorman in remastered 3D, which brings in just over $1 million at number 10. And looking at some of the movies in that batch of 5, One Battle After Another is now Paul Thomas Anderson's highest grossing film, no matter how you cut it, domestically, worldwide, and now adjusted for inflation domestically. It has moved past There Will Be Blood at $65.7 million, so an all-time high for Paul Thomas Anderson across multiple different metrics there. Dropping out of the top 10 this week, we had 5 films. The Conjuring Last Rites is out after 7 weeks. Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, is out after 4 weeks. Soul on Fire is out after 2 weeks. After the Hunt is out after 1 week in wide release. And Truth and Treason just barely missed the top 10. It's also out after 1 week. And before The Conjuring Last Rites exited the top 10, it was able to pass Get Out, unadjusted for inflation, to become the 5th highest grossing R-rated horror film of all time. It's now behind It, Sinners, The Exorcist, and It Chapter 2. As far as movies that left theaters this past weekend, Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, led the way. It lost 1,163 theaters, which was about half of its total. It's still now in 1,372. Tron Ares lost a big chunk of theaters the first week it was eligible to lose theaters. It lost 1,060 of them. It's still in 2,940. One Battle After Another lost over 1,000 theaters. It's still in 1,473. Roofman also lost over 1,000 theaters, about a third of its total. It's still in 2,347. And The Conjuring Last Rites lost 1,000 theaters, 1,020 of them to be exact. It's now technically out of wide release in 961 theaters. This is the chart that I optimistically, it turns out, called our road to recovery. The blue line is the box office weekend average for 2015 to 2019. The red line is the average for 2021 to 2024, and the dotted black line is every weekend this year, and this continues to be an October to forget. It's like the month changed and the box office just took a nosedive because we had yet another weekend where we were behind not only where we were pre-pandemic, but where we have been. If you look at the averages, they've been pretty close historically for this week. This upcoming weekend, of course, is Halloween. You can see on the chart that there's generally a dip in attendance, so we will see if we can maybe overcome even the lowest of low expectations to get above at least where we have been for the last week of October, and I'll update our market share and how it compared to last year, etc., on next week's show. So Chainsaw Man is number one at the box office, and that takes us to our Charts with Dan trivia question this week. It'll probably be easy for people that are big fans of anime. The question is, Chainsaw Man, the movie, Reze Arc screenwriter Hiroshi Seiko also wrote the script for which anime film that debuted in the domestic top 5? So same screenwriter, two movies that have been top 5 anime films. I'll give you another hint. This movie debuted at number 2 on the box office chart. I'll give you another second to think. The answer is Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which is pretty impressive. And when you look at Hiroshi Seiko's resume, he not only has written multiple anime films, but he's written on some of the biggest anime series of all time. Jujutsu Kaisen, of course, Chainsaw Man, Attack on Titan, a really great filmography as a writer, especially for modern anime. Let's take a look at the top per theater averages for this past weekend. At number 1 was Bugonia, the latest from Yorgos Lanthimos. It just missed out on being one of the biggest per theater averages of the year. It played in 17 theaters. I think if it had played in fewer, it would have easily been a top 5 per theater average debut. It will expand wider this upcoming weekend. It was just an accident from director Jafar Panahi, expanded to 11 theaters and brought in $9,619 per theater. In 3 theaters was the documentary Mistress Dispeller, bringing in $7,814 per theater. It is a documentary about women in China who break up affairs that cheating men are having on their wives. That sounds like an interesting documentary. I hope it makes its way to me soon. In 4th place is Chainsaw Man, the movie, Reze Arc, which brought in just over $6,000 per theater in each of its 3,000 theaters. And in 5th place is Wisdom of Happiness, the documentary featuring the Dalai Lama, which brought in $5,058 per theater in 2 theaters. Looking at the top films in limited release, which I define as 1,000 theaters or fewer, at number 1 was Begonia with just over $700,000 in 17 theaters. Blue Moon, directed by Richard Linklater, comes in 2nd place, bringing in $554,000 in 689 theaters. In 3rd place, we have Tama, which brought in $548,000 in 431 theaters. Tama is a Hindi-language horror comedy that is part of an overall cinematic universe. This one is about vampires. At number 4, Will Wonders Never Cease? Is this an actual theatrical number for a Netflix movie in theaters? Frankenstein comes in with a reported number of $345,000. This was reported in a couple of different sources. It's not on Box Office Mojo or the numbers, but I found it on Tribute. I found it reported in the media. To be honest, this seems low, but really, I'll take whatever Netflix number I can get because usually we get nothing. So $345,000 is the quote-unquote official number. We know that it made at least that much in those 382 theaters. In 5th place is The Mastermind from director Kelly Reichardt, which expanded to 186 theaters and brought in $268,000. Let's turn now to the top movies internationally, which is all markets outside of the US and Canada, and it's pretty close to the domestic chart this weekend. At number 1 is Chainsaw Man, the movie, Reze Arc, which brought in $18.7 million. It expanded to other markets besides the US market. That's a 144.3% increase in business from last weekend internationally and $18.7 million. Black Phone 2 dropped 32.3% for another $15.5 million. Regretting You brought in $10 million, with One Battle After Another bringing in $8 million. That's a 32.2% drop. And Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, bringing in $7 million. When you take those international numbers, you combine them with our domestic grosses, we get the top 10 films worldwide. At number 1 was Chainsaw Man, the movie, Reze Arc, a 378% increase in business from last weekend and $36.8 million. Its worldwide total gross is now over $100 million, and we'll see how much it adds to that total. Black Phone 2 had a similar drop, a pretty good drop for a horror film worldwide. It dropped 45.4% to bring in $23.4 million. It's now at $80.7 million worldwide. Regretting You debuted to $23.6 million worldwide, while Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere debuted to $15.8 million. And Tron Ares dropped 55.5% in 5th place for another $11.2 million. The world is not coming to bail this one out. Its global total is now $123.3 million. Well, last week on the show, in conjunction with the release of Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere, I asked members here on the channel what musician or band that did not yet have a biopic would make the best biopic, and we got some very interesting answers. At number one from our members was Fleetwood Mac with 32 votes, all the drama and everything else. In second place was Dolly Parton with 19 votes. Certainly her philanthropic work and her life would make an interesting movie. Tied for third were Britney Spears and Daft Punk with 18 votes apiece for very different reasons. And then coming in fifth place was David Bowie with 12 votes. And regardless of whether you think these would all make good movies, you have to admit, if you could bring these groups together in their prime, this would be one hell of a music festival card. This week's member poll question may lead to some deep thinking, because I want to know from you, the members here on the channel, what was your favorite new October release in theaters this month? I know that it's been kind of slim pickings. I suspect none of them might be one of the top answers, but we will see. If you want to wait until Friday, if there's a movie that hasn't made it to you that you want to see, you can always answer the question on Saturday or Sunday. Leave your answer right now in the member poll. If your answer is already there, I again would request that you upvote that answer instead of leaving it again. The results will be revealed on next week's Charts with Dan. And if you're not a member here on the channel, depending on how you're watching the video, there might be a button for you to push that says become a member, or there's definitely a link down in the description below. You'll get to vote in the member poll each week here on the show. You also get early access to some of my videos and custom badges and emoji to use down in the chat. I would love to hear your voice each and every week here on the show, so if you want to be a member, come join us. These are the top 10 movies at the fall holiday box office. So this is all box office post Labor Day. The Conjuring Last Rites at number one with $176.7 million, followed by Demon Slayer Infinity Castle with $132.3 million. Then we got a pretty big drop off until we get to One Battle After Another. For right now, it's at number three at $65.7 million, but Tron Ares is right behind at $63.3 million. Black Phone 2 jumps 4 spots to number 5 at $48.9 million. That drops Downton Abbey, the grand finale, down to 6th place. The Long Walk down to 7th place. Taylor Swift's Release Party down to 8th place. Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, down to 9th place. And Him still rounding out the top 10 at number 10 with $24.9 million. So that's what I've got for you as far as the box office. Let's quickly take a look at the latest in the world of streaming, and we'll start with the latest numbers from Netflix. New ones will be out later today. This is for the week of October 13th through the 19th. The number one program was The Woman in Cabin 10, which saw an expansion in its audience in its first full week on the streaming service. It brought in 30.13 million views. Then we have the documentary The Perfect Neighbor, which debuted at this year's Sundance Film Festival. If you haven't seen it, it's a tough watch, but it's a very good movie. It brought in 16.67 million views. Then we have K-pop Demon Hunters all the way down to third place after only, 3 months? Another 16.2 million views. Caramello comes in fourth place at 14.97 million views. Monster, the Ed Gein story, rounds out the top 5 with 9.46 million views. Then we have Boots Season 1, which drew some attention, or really attention was drawn to it by the U.S. Department of Defense, who apparently had an issue with the show. That may have drawn more eyeballs to it. 9.44 million views total. No One Saw Us Leave Season 1 comes in 7th place at 7.98 million views. This is a series from Mexico about a woman trying to find her kidnapped children. At number 8 is Inside Furiosa, which sounds like it could potentially be a knockoff porn parody of a George Miller film, but it's not. It brought in 7.15 million views, and it's actually a sequel to the Polish film Furiosa, and it's about crime and hooligans. So, I mean, it may be not safe for work, but not for the reasons that you might think. My Father, the BTK Killer, comes in 9th place at 6.45 million views, and then the animated film The Twits rounds out the top 10 at 5.94 million views. Let's take a look now at the latest numbers from Nielsen. Now, these are domestic numbers only, not global numbers like the ones we just saw from Netflix, and they take about a month to be reported. So this is for the week of September 22nd through the 28th. At number 1, of course, when we look at the top 10 movies, K-pop Demon Hunters at 12.4 million hours watched. Superman on HBO Max moves up to number 2 at 9.48 million hours watched. Elio is at number 3 on Disney Plus at 5.58 million hours watched. Then we have 28 Years Later on Netflix at 5.4 4.4 million hours watched. So a lot of people catching up on their summer movies the last full week of September. At number 5 was the debut of Netflix's Ruth and Boaz at 5.35 million hours watched. Then we have San Andreas at number 6 with 4.83 million hours watched. This was the movie that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was promoting when he did the surprise wedding for my pal Nick Mundy on Screen Junkies. That's been quite some time, I guess about 10 years ago. Hard to believe. Ice Road Vengeance is at number 7 at 3.9 million hours watched, followed by The Wrong Paris at number 8, really tied with Ice Road Vengeance. Lilo and Stitch comes in at number 9, the 2025 version with 2.6 million hours watched, and Shrek 2 returns to the top 10 at 2.46 million hours watched. These are the top 10 streaming shows for the 22nd through the 28th of September. At number 1 was Netflix's Black Rabbit with 21 million hours watched, followed by the debut of Wayward at 14.1 million hours. SpongeBob SquarePants comes in third place. It's really seen a surge in streaming viewership over the past few months. Bluey comes in at number 4, followed by Wednesday at number 5, The Big Bang Theory at number 6, NCIS returning to the top 10 at number 7. Doc hits the top 10 at number 8, I think because both the first season hit, I think it's Netflix, and new episodes are airing, so that's contributing to a top 10 run for that show. Law & Order is at number 9, and Bob's Burgers is at number 10. Looking at the top shows as far as watch time per available episode, so you take the total number of hours watched, you divide it by the number of episodes you can watch, and that gives us this number. Black Rabbit comes in at number 1 at 2.63 million hours watched per episode, followed by Wayward at 1.76 million hours per episode. House of Guinness makes the top 3 by this metric at 1.1 million hours per episode. Then we have Doc coming in at just under a million hours per episode. Billionaire's Bunker on Netflix also at just under a million hours per episode at number 5. Wednesday is at number 6. Bon Appetit Your Majesty comes in at number 7. Beauty in Black is at number 8. Tulsa King is at number 9 as it debuts a new season, and The Morning Show debuting a new season comes in at number 10. And those are all the numbers I have for you this week. Before I go, I just wanted to draw your attention to some stuff you might be interested in theaters and at home, although a lot of studios and streamers are taking a light approach to the weekend because it's Halloween and a lot of people are going to be out doing other things. First of all, tomorrow on Wednesday, if you are really hankering to re-experience the Twilight Saga on the big screen, you can do so starting tomorrow night. Each Twilight film will hit theaters on consecutive nights, starting with Twilight tomorrow and ending with Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2 on Sunday. So if you want to spend a work week's worth of nights rewatching the Twilight films, this is the week for you. Ballad of a Small Player also debuts on Netflix tomorrow. It's Edward Berger's latest film, and it stars Colin Farrell as a desperate gambler. And also streaming tomorrow on Amazon Prime Video is Hedda, which is Nia DaCosta and Tessa Thompson's reimagining of Hedda Gabler. On Thursday, the Liam Hemsworth era begins on The Witcher. He takes over the lead role from Henry Cavill. You can catch all of season 4, all 8 episodes on Thursday. That show, someone's going to write a book about the rise and fall of The Witcher someday. Jurassic World Rebirth also begins streaming on Peacock on Thursday. And also on Thursday, one of my favorite movies of the year, and I don't think it had the theatrical release that it should have, Sorry Baby, will be available to stream on HBO Max. Highly recommended for me. On Friday, not a whole lot of new films hitting theaters. Bugonia, as I mentioned, will be expanding from its very limited release. Netflix is actually putting K-pop Demon Hunters back in theaters again for Halloween weekend. So we'll see if we can actually get some box office numbers out of them. But K-pop Demon Hunters will be hitting the big screen once more. And also in many theaters around the country, you'll be able to watch Bahubali the Epic. Before he directed RRR, S.S. Rajamouli made 2 Bahubali films that were massively successful. Those 2 films have been cut down into one epic movie. I think I read it's like 3 hours and 45 minutes long, and also remastered to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the release of the first film. So Bahubali the Epic in theaters this weekend. I suspect we're going to see it in the top 10 next week on this show. Hitting limited release, I just want to give a plug to a local Arkansas filmmaker. In limited release is a movie called Violent Ends. It's directed by John Michael Powell. John Michael Powell is a writer-director from Arkansas, actually from my hometown in Arkansas. He was a little bit younger than me, but we were friendly growing up, and I'm very happy to see that he's now got a movie that's hitting theaters. I don't know exactly how wide the release is, but if it's near you, it sounds interesting. Violent Ends is set right here in the Ozark Mountains. Billy Magnuson plays a man trying to avoid his family's criminal past, but finds himself thrown into it. So yeah, got to give a little hometown love there. Also hitting limited release, very limited release on Friday, is Nouvelle Vague, which is Richard Linklater's look at Jean-Luc Godard and the making of Breathless. It'll be hitting Netflix on November 14th. And Back to the Future will be hitting theaters once again for its 40th anniversary on Friday. If you're a fan of Back to the Future and you really want to feel old, especially as a child of the 80s or 90s, just think about the fact that you could go back in time right now, as far as Marty McFly did in Back to the Future, and still be 10 years after the release of Back to the Future. That's all right. It's still a classic. And that's everything I've got for you this week. Be sure to stay tuned right here. I've got some other stuff I'm cooking up for the rest of the week. I also released a tier list of the highest grossing horror movies of all time. That came out yesterday. So if you missed that one and you're looking for a good movie to watch this Halloween, and you want to know what I think about the biggest box office horror hits of all time, you can check out that video right now. And I'm going to be looking at what I can do for the rest of the week. But most of all, thank you for staying to watch this video. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, click the bell so you know when I upload a new video. And as I mentioned, if you want to become a member of the channel, you can check out the description below. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.